On BYU Sports Nation, expectations for BYU in the Big 12 and what exceeding them would look like in year one.
Going to a bowl game and being above 500 in men's hoops enough?
We shall discuss. Welcome to BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Tuesday, March 21st. I am Spencer Linton, alongside Captain Countdown, Jarom Jordan.
Apparently it's National Countdown Day because it's 3, 2, 1, right? March 21st. So in honor of National Countdown Day, hit it!
Countdown to the Big 12.
102. Okay, so Thursday we're a hundy out from July 1st.
Official inclusion in the Big 12 Conference.
Yeah.
Do we really care that much about July 1st?
I think, yeah, it'll be cool. It's like, all right, we're in. But what it means is, already been told, which is you won, you're in. Yes. Validation,
It's
sweet.
happening.
We've been waiting for a million years. And then 2 is like, all right, give us the schedules. We have the football schedule.
Yep.
Love to get publicly the women's soccer and women's volleyball schedules, and then we get men's, women's basketball, and so on and so forth. Everything but men's volleyball, whose league will remain the MPSF. By the way, USC and UCLA, they're going to go to the Big Ten. They'll still stay in the MPSF as well, unless the Big Ten decides they want to add 2 affiliate members, because they'll have 4, but they'll be spread out in 3 different leagues.
One thing's for sure, BYU volleyball will be on BYUtv.
We know that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That'll be the only thing in terms of games, but we'll still have all the studio shows and features and Deep Blues and whatnot. So, yeah, pre- and post-game shows, like coaches' shows, yeah, all of it. Yes. If not more. Who knows what we're drumming up behind the scenes right now.
Yes, and interesting that it is 3-2-1, March 21st of 23. So 3-2-1-2-3. Isn't that a palindrome?
3-1-2-3-2-1-2-3.
A chiasmus. The palindrome is the
chiasmus,
word.
that's like one of the most Book of Mormon references ever. That's great.
It is.
In Mosiah. That's
it's
awesome.
chiasmus, but isn't the palindrome with a word where it starts with the same letter?
Bro, I went to BYU to study journalism. Okay? I don't know. Sure, yes.
Yes, just say yes.
Okay. Good Snow Patrol song. On today's show, exceeding expectations. Our win totals above expectation in year one for football and men's hoops. Blaine Fowler weighs in on that. Spring football, who's sticking out? What position groups are Big 12 ready in his opinion? What men's hoops needs out of the transfer portal, perhaps? Plus, the top 5 March Madness runs in men and women's hoops history. But first, here are today's headlines.
Beginning with Mel Kiper's top 10 position rankings. They've been updated, and as far as the big 3 at BYU in the NFL draft are concerned, Blake Freeland has dropped to number 10 in the offensive tackle rankings. Jaron Hall at quarterback and Puka Nacua wide receiver, both outside of Kiper's top 10 position rankings.
What happened? Baseball hosts Utah Valley at 5 Eastern on the BYUtv and BYU radio apps. The Cougars lead the series 34-9. Of course, this and softball, which we'll talk about in a second, moved up to avoid weather later today.
Speaking of softball, hosting Boise State today, 4 Eastern, live on the BYUtv app. I'll be on the call with Jason Shepard. It's a BYUSN edition of softball. The Cougars are 14-6 this season. They've won 6 straight. Boise State has won 7 straight. 13 straight wins between these 2 teams.
It's going to be just one of these teams continuing that later today, unless they somehow tie, which we don't think will happen. Gymnastics are in the LA Regional beginning next Wednesday afternoon against Boise State. The winner will then compete against UCLA, Missouri, and Stanford, all in the top 20 the next night. Individual all-around competitors from BYU include Sydney Benson, Kylie E. Quinto on vault, Anissa Alvarado on bars, and Elise Rollins on beam.
BYU men's volleyball remains number 8 in the latest coaches poll. The AVCA apparently liked the grade 8 for BYU. It's been 6 straight weeks. Cougars 12-6 this season on a bye week, or coming off a bye week, I should say. They host number 7 Pepperdine Friday and Saturday at 9 Eastern.
Yeah, baby. BYU 8-0 at home.
So I've just been told that the palindrome is technically correct. Okay, you're going to learn something here.
Well, it is a sphenic palindrome, specifically, if you're wondering.
A word, phrase, or sequence that reads the same backward as forward.
Yeah, it's a 5-digit sphenic palindrome.
I love it.
Thank you, Google.
I love it so much.
Thank you. Yeah, remember the movie Frequency?
I do.
Remember this one kid? Yahoo.
Oh, yeah.
Just missed on that.
He made some big money. Okay.
in that multiverse timeline.
All rise and shout. Let's get to what's trending.
The main focus, elevating our play so we can be competitive in that league.
That's one of the things that was so intriguing about coming to BYU is this transition into the Big 12 is exciting.
It is exciting, and it's an expectations extravaganza, if you will, today. What's trending, presented by Bodyguards, protection for a life worth living. Learn more at bodyguards.com. Jarom, when we discuss expectations, they waver from time to time, but let's put on the blue goggles a little bit today, shall we? Can you do this with me?
Blue goggle alert.
All right.
Blue goggle alert.
How many wins would it take to exceed expectations for BYU in year one of the Big 12? And let's start on the football side specifically.
American football, that's what we're talking about?
Yes.
8 would be above. Because I'm thinking BYU goes 2-1 in non-conference. That's easy enough. 3-0 would be great. And then like 4-5, 5-4, right, would get you to 6 or 7 wins. And then you win a bowl game, and maybe you get to 7 or 8. So 8 would be above. We feel like BYU is more prepared than Utah was, right, to go into a Power 5, given the schedules that BYU played, obviously. Therefore, BYU needs to do better than Utah did the first couple of seasons. Utah went 8-5 in year one.
So BYU needs to be better than 8-5 in year one?
No, they went 5-7, 5-7.
Okay.
So first 3 years, can you keep your head above 500? Can you go to bowl games? Can you build up? Can you have a year where you kind of stick out? They had 1 year, right, at 8-5. We believe that, and by the way, 7 of the next 9 after that, Utah had 9+ wins. 7, and one of those was the COVID year, so you almost throw it out. Like 7 of the next 8, essentially, full seasons. That's pretty impressive. I would love for BYU to have the success that Utah did in its first 11 years in the Pac-12. Go to the Rose Bowl, that's great. Maybe BYU can go to that game and win that game. Just going to the game would be enough, let's be honest. So how will I quantify some of the success in that process, right? Because are we outcome-based or process-based here? We're both, but because you have to win. But, okay, defensively, what are we looking at? Okay, last year, defensively, 96th in points per play, 96th in yards per play, 117th in takeaways, 124th in success rate. Those are the 4 things I'm looking at, okay, to tell me how BYU is doing. Those stunk, okay? So obviously be better at those. So what? I don't know. Top 70 in those would be great, like that level of improvement. Granted, you're playing a tougher schedule. Keep that in mind. Offensively, can BYU approximate what they did last year? BYU was really good. Look at these numbers in those same categories. 15th in yards per play. 19th in points per play. Again, those take out tempo. 17th, well, because you played Air Force and Navy, the game was shorter, whatever. Tied for 5th in giveaways. 17th in success rate. BYU's offense was really good, really good. Don't look at points per game. Look at points per play, yards per play, those kind of things. Those tell you what's up. BYU had a top 20 offense. They had multiple NFL players on that side of the ball. Hopefully, BYU can be a top 30 offense and a top 70 in some of this stuff defense. And I think that would yield 7 or 8 wins, if not more. And again, just because you pop up with 8-5 in year one, remember Utah, take note, 5-7 the next 2 years. What we don't want is just like a flash in the pan year one and then to go away. We'd like sustained success and at some point to be competing for conference championships. Will that take a decade like it took Utah? We're hoping it takes 3 to 7 years, that you can get into that space a little more comfortably and sooner. But that's what exceeding expectations would look like to me. The simple answer is 8+ wins.
Yeah, it's always going to come down to the win-loss category when we're determining ultimate success. And I've said for a while now, I expect BYU to win 7 games and probably lose 5. And I've been told a number of times, way too ambitious. Just get to a bowl game. And so I feel like a lot of BYU fans have the baseline expectation of just go 6-6 and we'll call it good. But I feel like this team is better than 6-6. Yeah, I know that they're playing a tougher schedule and they're playing 10 Power 5 teams for the first time ever. But BYU's schedule last year, taking out, the fact that they didn't play as many Power 5s as they did in 2021, they still have high-quality Group of 5 opponents that are comparable to some of the lower tier teams in the Power 5 conference. I feel like BYU played a pretty comparable schedule last year to what they will face next year. It's a little bit harder.
Just didn't have the lowly Pac-12 to beat up from 21. Pac-12 got way better in 22. Like if BYU had played those same teams in 22, there's maybe BYU goes 3-2. Right?
Apparently it was COVID's fault for all of that. Okay? Take what you will from that. But 7-5 is my expectation. So exceeding expectations means BYU's going 8-4. And I feel like,
awesome.
okay, maybe that's too much. Maybe that's too much. So maybe it should just be, okay, they go 7-5 and they win a bowl game and they're 8-5. If BYU goes 8-5 and they manufacture the same exact record that they had last year with a tougher schedule as a Power 5 team, then yeah, just in the win-loss category, by nature alone, that is exceeding expectations. So 7-5, just get to 8, including the bowl game. That is exceeding expectations. 6-6, I'd be fine with. You go to a bowl game, great. Just don't miss out on a bowl game. I feel like this team has too much talent. Keaton Slovis is too talented a quarterback. He's got too many weapons on offense. There's enough returning on the offensive line. BYU should be able to find a way to win 6 games. I like the idea that 7-5 would also probably have to mean that BYU has a winning record in conference. They could go 3-0 in non-con and go 4-5 in Big 12 play and still finish 7-5, but I'm inclined to believe that 7-5 would probably mean 2-1 in non-con and 5-4 in the Big 12. A winning record in the Big 12 in year 1 sounds really nice. I want to add to your takeaways number, and I like your numbers breakdown because BYU just did not create enough havoc. You talked about that with Kelly Papinga. BYU had 15 sacks last year, and I know that sacks are not like as important as we maybe pay attention to, but 15 sacks, Jarom, was 130th in the country last year. There was only one team that had fewer sacks than BYU, and it was pre-Deion Sanders Colorado, who had 9, and they were abysmal on defense. 15 sacks, 130th in the country. BYU can be better than that. And creating more havoc. Takeaways at 117. I'm with you. I am looking specifically at the defensive side of the ball. And if we're looking at Bill Connolly's SP Plus projections, I think he had BYU in the low 90s going in, if not high 80s. It's moved a little bit. BYU's got to be top 70 in that. Like, give me top 70 defensive efficiency SP Plus projection, and that starts, I believe, with takeaways and sacks. You just have to have more havoc rate. That would be exceeding expectations, thus leading to more wins. Let's go.
If anyone can find havoc rate nationally in the ratings, let me know. I can't find it.
Can we create it?
Well,
how would we create that?
You can manually do it. I don't want to manually do it. Topic 2. Same question for men's hoops. How many wins would it take to exceed expectations next year?
Oh, man. 6-12 in the Big 12, 17-15 overall. Maybe that's too ambitious, but I believe that Mark Pope's going to be able to go and find some pieces this year, guys specifically that were denied a chance to play in a Power 5 conference that feel like they're awesome. Maybe they've gone to a smaller conference and excelled and been amazing.
Can BYU afford them?
An Antoine Davis type at Detroit Mercy. Like, can BYU go and find that guy with the caveat that now you get to play in the best conference in America? BYU was still playing in the West Coast Conference last year.
They were.
And the selling point for a one-and-done guy like Rudy Williams is, yeah, we're going to the Big 12, but this is it in the West Coast Conference. Do you think Rudy would be excited about having the prospect coming back and going back to the Big 12, but as a senior? There's going to be a few more, I feel, big players, big personalities that are going to help BYU and come and can be an immediate leader. But to your point, can BYU afford that type of player? I feel like there will just be more options than BYU had last year. So, yes, BYU will be able to afford somebody that's a tier B+, A- type player that can come in and impact the team right away, just because of the Big 12 alone. So 17-15, 6-12 in the conference. If you're above 500.
Are you including Kansas City or no? Get that to 31. That'd be the number.
Is it? We don't know how many games there will be. Is it? Oh, does it have to be 31 games?
If you're playing an MTE, it's 31.
Okay. So does the NCAA mandated that, by the way? I didn't realize that it has to be 31 games.
Well, it depends if you're playing an MTE. Yeah. If you don't, then I think it's 30. But,
Okay. Yeah. Well, regardless, case 17.
BYU will play in an empty.
17-14, 6-12 in conference. That would mean you'd have to go, 11-2 in non-con. But maybe you just super lighten up the non-con, build chemistry with your team, get those new guys in position, figure it out, and get into the Big 12. But I believe that the Marriott Center will have the magic next year. Every game's going to be huge. And I don't think that, some BYU fans are giving that enough credit. It's going to be tough for some Big 12 teams to come in here, and BYU is going to sneak a few wins away because of the Marriott Center.
They'll have to do what they didn't do this year, which is win those big games. Lost both by 1, St. Mary's and Gonzaga, but traditionally BYU clips at least one of those guys at home, and now you have an opportunity against the majority of them. You're going to play 9 Big 12 home games, and 7 of those are going to be probably against teams that are in the top 40 or 50 in net. There's quad 1s and 2s every game.
Well, if you want to talk about a metric, let's start with three-point shooting, Jarom. It's going to be better for the team, and it has to be.
Sure hope so. Trevor Nell will help that by himself. I say above 500 overall is good.
Okay.
We're about to go into the toughest thing BYU's ever done in sports.
So is your expectation
Big 12 men's hoops?
Is it 500 and then exceeding is anything above 500?
500 overall, and then if BYU can get to 6 wins in league, honestly, I'm keeping it super low. 1, because we don't know what BYU has from a roster standpoint. 2, BYU's on a 4-year slide down. Hopefully they can slide up. Things can change quickly.
Climb back
Perhaps
up.
BYU men's basketball does that. And then 3 is, in the Big 12, we just don't know exactly what it's going to be like. The fewest amount of teams any of the 10 played this year against top 25 teams was 13 games. 13 games. This year, I believe BYU played 7 of those, 5 of which came in the WCC. So in non-con, I think BYU needs to go and do what they did. Listen, for as many issues as this year's team had, they went 10-3 in non-con. And they played a couple of challenging games, right? Utah and Creighton and Butler and Dayton and whatnot. If you can go 10-3 in non-con and somehow get to 6-12 in
16
league,
and 15 overall.
Hey, I'd take it, because men's basketball is not as ready as football is, and the league's harder. So those two things are difficult right now. Men's basketball at the base of Everest, as Mark Pope has said, they certainly understand the climb that is the challenge next.
Our question of the day. You've heard our numbers, win-loss, broken down some specific metrics on the football and basketball side. How many wins would it take next season for BYU football or basketball to exceed expectations in year 1 of the Big 12? Jordan Royal from Twitter says football is 6 wins plus a bowl win. Basketball would be a winning record in non-con and don't finish last in conference. Wow. Okay, so 7-6 in non-con. And then,
no, you can control non-con. You can go 10-3.
I mean, what was Oklahoma's record in the Big 12 this year? Because I'm looking at...
They didn't make the NIT.
No, they didn't make the NIT. I'm looking at the conference standings. Okay, Big 12, Oklahoma. Oh, man. What were they?
They were 5-13 in
5-13.
league.
There you go. They were the last place team in the Big 12.
5-13.
5-13.
Still got 5 wins. Next year, it's diluted a little bit because BYU, UCF, and Cincinnati come in. You know who strengthens it? Houston. 1 seed still in the Sweet 16. Perhaps going to the Final Four in their town.
Oklahoma, with that 5-13 record, went 15-17 overall. Yeah, so exceeding expectations is just 6 wins and above 500 record.
Winning a third? Because think, you got like 4 or 5 quad 1 or 2 wins just out of the league, right? Okay, at Bobo_Sarah. Jarom Jordan on BYUSN talking about Snow Patrol literally made me spit out laughing. Just say yes. Snow Patrol, my favorite band.
Say yes.
Yeah, I saw them one time at Saltaire, the great Saltaire. It was awesome. Okay, thank you. Friday is BYU football's pro day, the final one in Provo, because they're going to have the League One coming up next year in Dallas, which will be awesome. Join us Friday from 12 to 2 Eastern Time. Jaron Hall, Puka Nakua, Blake Freeland, and others. Trying to impress the scouts. 2-hour dish from the indoor practice facility.
Up next, Blaine Fowler explains palindromes. Also, what are his expectations for year 1 of the Big 12? And what would it take to exceed those for football and basketball? He joins the combo. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Bodyguards, protection for a life worth living.
Utah is a special place. Our communities, the people, the history, there is no place quite like Utah. At Siegfried and Jensen, we're honored to say that we are from Utah. We live here, work here, and when someone is injured, we're proud to say we've helped a neighbor when they've needed it most. We know Utah. At Siegfried and Jensen, we're here for you.
Learn more at siegfriedandjensen.com.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork offers a large inventory of Ford vehicles, including a selection of cars and trucks, providing a range of transportation choices. From the Ford Fusion sedan and the Edge crossover SUV to a range of pickups including the F-150. Each product line comes with options to enhance performance, comfort, and safety. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
If you're looking to build your brand awareness and increase market share as BYU moves into the Big 12, this is the place, BYU Athletics. We can provide the tools you need to make sure your company is seen and heard. BYU Athletics is where you can align your products and services with loyal fans that cheer for our Cougars. And they can also help your business win. Learn more about what a partnership with BYU Athletics and your company will look like. After all, this is the place. Email sponsorship at byu.edu today.
I was adopted as a baby.
Love, that's the missing piece.
4 teams are racing to find their family.
I would really love to meet my parents. It's high time that we see each other again.
I'm your dad, Tommy.
I'm your sister, love.
Really?
I just want her to know I forgive you.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to an all-new season of Relative Race.
We are live at Studio B. This is your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I'm Spencer Linton, teamed up with Jarom Jordan. Let's welcome in Uncle B, Blaine Fowler, to the conversation now, specifically with expectations and how to exceed them if you're BYU football or basketball in year one of the Big 12. Blaine, let's go ahead and just start right there. You can put on your blue goggles for a little bit, but what would exceeding expectations look like for BYU football specifically in year one of Big 12 play?
Well, I don't have any blue goggles. I mean, I can put on my reading glasses so I can see things a little bit clearer. But hey, I'm getting old, you guys. I can see a deer on the side of a mountain from 5 miles away, but ask me to read something this close, I got a problem. So to me, the goal, guys, is to just get bowl eligible in year one. And so anything that is above 6 wins, to me, on the season as a whole, is above expectations. Now, having said that, I've gone through this schedule, front ways and sideways and slant ways and however other ways Willy Wonka says the Wonkavator goes. But I can see them getting 7 wins and maybe even 8. Now how do they do that? Well, I feel like they could get wins as we're looking at the schedule. Cincinnati, Iowa State, Texas Tech, right? At Kansas, at West Virginia, I think are the most possible wins on the road. So there's 5 wins in conference. And then let's say you lose to Oklahoma, at Texas, at Oklahoma State, and at TCU. You play 3 really difficult teams on the road. So you go 5-4 in league. That means that in non-conference, you're going to beat Sam Houston, Southern Utah. Can you go get a win against Arkansas, a team that I felt they should have beaten last year with a new defense and different schemes and a new quarterback? You get that win, all of a sudden you're 8 wins and 4 losses. Say you lose to Arkansas, or you beat Arkansas and you lose to Texas Tech or Kansas on the road. You're still in that 7-win realm. So I feel like 6 should be the standard. Just get bowl eligible first year in the league. But I will not be surprised if they get to 7. To me, that would be overachieving. If they get to 8, to me, that's a phenomenal first year in the Big 12, if by chance they get to 8. And I think that's a pretty high standard for them to get to 8 with the schedule that they're playing.
With that said, would anything under 500, well, I guess in the regular season, let's not include a bowl game. If BYU gets to a bowl game and loses 6 and 7, you still got to a bowl game. Would anything under 500 in the regular season, would that be below expectation? Is the expectation every year, no matter what, make a bowl game?
To me, the minimum expectation that you have to go into every season with is that you get 6 wins and you get to a bowl. And I don't care if you're in the Big 12 or the Pac-12 or what league you're in. That's the bar for BYU. They're missing some pieces from last year, but I think they've added some pieces, and I think they're doing some things that should be the expectation. I don't think any of us should be okay with them being below 500, even in this new league. I think it's for basketball, it's a bigger jump because they've been playing in the WCC and they're moving to the best basketball conference in the country. Although SEC might argue with that right now, but in football, this decade of independence, where they've been playing P5 schools on a regular basis, especially the last couple of years, I think football's in a much better position to understand the grind of how to manage a P5 schedule, and I think a bare minimum should be 6 wins as an expectation.
Blaine Fowler is with us on BYU Sports Nation. Blaine, Jarom and I were just discussing certain aspects of the style of play, schematics, statistics, and we kind of centered in on the defense because it was porous in a lot of areas last year. We pointed out takeaways, sacks, points per play given up. What would exceeding expectations look like from just style of play and what you're going to see from BYU on the field, not just in the win-loss column?
I think in the Big 12, because the offenses are so good, that it's about being disruptive. And, Spencer, you just brought up this idea that we didn't see a lot of interceptions and fumbles forced and those kinds of things, defensive points, right? Because I think managing points in this league are going to be tough. I mean, these teams just go out and score points. And I think BYU offensively, I've been watching Keaton early on. Cade is actually spinning the ball pretty good too. But you add the addition of Aiden Robbins at running back, you get a healthy Miles Davis back. Some of the guys that came on at the end of the year, you start to trust. I think this is an offense that can score in that league. And it's a league that's built. So I think the offense can keep pace. So the difference maker is a defense that's disruptive enough to give your offense additional possessions, because that's how you win games in this league. And I just watched the style of play through spring ball, where they're much more aggressive with blitz packages. D linemen are, I'm not going to say it's just a true one-gap assignment because they play through a player to that one gap, but they're going to allow them to be a little more aggressive. They're going to do things where they may give up a few big plays, but I think we're going to see more disruption in what they're doing. And I think that is a perfect timing for a fit for going to in this new league, where disruption, forcing turnovers, extra possessions for your offense, so your offense can score more, is the way you win in this league.
Let's talk men's hoops. We were hoping, BYU kind of mails it in non-conference. A couple tough games, obviously, but you need to gather some wins. And then in league, it's probably something like 6-12 would be pretty good. Oklahoma, as we looked up during the segment, was 5-13 in last place. 5 wins would be pretty good. Granted, you bring in Houston, a 1 seed, and Cincinnati, UCF, certainly opportunities there. BYU certainly looks like an opportunity for most teams, but the hope is that the Cougars can quickly kind of get out of this 4-year trend of becoming less efficient as a team. What do you expect, and what would be above expectation?
Well, I think the mark that you guys have set as 6 in conference is probably fair. More importantly than wins and losses to me, I would like to see them compete and not finish in a 14-team league in the last 3. Okay, so can they be 10, 11 in that league? And what that translates to in terms of wins, hard to know. Like this year, that league is so ridiculous, right? That it would have been easy to be in the bottom. Hey, frankly, I think St. Mary's would have been in the bottom 2 in the Big 12 this year, and they're very good.
Really?
Right? Yeah. I think Gonzaga, just because of experience and they've been there, would have competed in the top 5 or 4 in that league, and they're showing that in the tournament. But St. Mary's on a day in, day out basis and the grind in that league, I feel like they would have been in the bottom 4 of that league. Which is crazy that I'm even saying that, because they're really good. So that gives you a sense of how much respect I have for that league. And now you bring Houston into that league. You guys watching them in the tournament?
They're awesome.
For Pete's sake, it looks like a bunch of NBA guys playing in college. They're that skilled. So to me, it's like not necessarily a win total, but it's can you stay out of the bottom of that league in your very, very first year? It's going to take a little bit to build. Hey, to do that, guys, if they're going to finish 10th or 11th in that league, they need some pieces. And I think they can go get those pieces. I think they need to go get a couple of bigs, right? That they're going to have to help out and give them depth to allow Foose to play at the 4 a little bit more. I think they need another big wing that can shoot. I think they're getting some guys back. I think Trevin Nell is going to be a big competitor that's going to be able to knock down shots consistently. And I also think the 3 freshmen that got back from their missions last year, they will make a quantum leap. So Dallin Hall and Richie Saunders, and then Toulston will start to weigh in with his talent after being home. I think those 3 will make a giant leap, and people will go, oh, wow, these guys are better than we thought they were. So that'll be great, right? But there's some pieces still missing that they're going to have to go get in the transfer portal that will make that difference and allow them to finish. If they finish 10th in that league next year, I'd be pumped. That would be good to me.
Blaine Fowler, Uncle B, is on BYU Sports Nation, dual threat analyst for football and basketball. He's discussed both already. Pro Day happens on Friday, Blaine, and a number of BYU guys, well, all of them, frankly, are working to raise stock and raise some eyebrows and increase interest in their own individual football profiles. Who has the most to gain and lose by competing at Friday's Pro Day?
This is an interesting thing. I was thinking about this just the other day. I think Jaron Hall, and that's crazy to say because he was in the NFL Combine, but remember, he hurt that ankle in the Senior Bowl workouts and was having a really, really good week. And then he couldn't fully compete because that ankle was still sore, so he couldn't run and do some of those things. But the reason I think a quarterback has a chance when you've got coaches and scouts that are right there face to face that can put him through a workout and say, hey, you know what? Now this just isn't the NFL Combine. I want to see you make this throw because this is the throw we make in our offense. I want to see you roll this way and make that throw. And Zach Wilson was already being talked about as a first-round draft pick, but I think his pro day at BYU put him in he's the second pick story. Now, that's not going to be the case for Jerry's not going to be the second pick, but I feel like he could actually move up significantly with a great pro day. Probably more than anybody else if people see what they want to see. And conversely, if he doesn't do well, then people may go, oh, now that I have eyes on him, he's going to slide down a little bit. So maybe that seems like the obvious one to you guys, because everybody else, I think, is just jockeying to move up a little bit. I think he can make the biggest move up or down of anybody in the BYU Pro Day setting, as these guys are there with eyes on him, getting to work him out individually.
Blaine, great stuff. We appreciate the time as always. Blue goggles unite, or reading glasses unite, if you will.
There we
Those
go.
aren't the same.
Do I look any smarter or just as dumb as always?
No,
yeah, I think you look smart.
You look very astute, my friend.
Okay, I'm going to wear them more, except for I can't step off a curb with these on because it seems like it's 10 feet up in the air.
Watch out, Ned Ryerson.
Now go wave at Bambi 5 miles away on the mountain.
Oh, I love the Ned
Bambi's
Ryerson.
dead.
Ned Ryerson? Did you actually do a Ned Ryerson,
yes.
Obscure,
Watch
am I right or am I right? Am I right? Am I right?
Watch
am I
that
right
first step. It's a doozy.
You never can have too much insurance. Am I right or am I
right? Blaine, thanks for the time.
You guys.
Ned Ryerson?
Can we get through a week without a Groundhog Day reference on this show?
We have quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a lot of those.
No.
Maybe I'm just feeling that way because Steve Vale brought up a few of those during volleyball
Nice.
as well.
Nice. You never come away the same. You're not the same person once you hang out with Steve Vale.
It's true.
The 14-6 softball team with Hunter Ava, who's back from an injury, hitting dingers in back-to-back games, plays Boise State today, 4 Eastern, on the BYUtv app.
Hey, if Cam Newton can do it, why not some former BYU Cougars? Which former BYU guy would you like to see work out at Pro Day on Friday to try and re-implement themselves into the league? This is BYU Sports Nation.
Did he call himself the 10?
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
BYU Food to Go's convenient location at 2191 North Canyon Road in Provo makes bringing popular BYU foods to your next event easy. Everything's ready when you need it at the drive and load pickup. You drive in and they load no matter the weather. And stop in the on-site creamery for great BYU chocolate milk and ice cream. BYU Food to Go, bringing campus to your table. Call for details, 801-422-5001.
Trio Orem Senior Living believes in empowering seniors to live life to the fullest. We help eliminate stress out of daily life when you live at Trio. Less time focusing on housework means you can socialize at one of our many events, with safety in mind, of course. And did we mention our spacious apartments with modern amenities? Learn more about setting up a private tour at trioorem.com.
Home is just about to get a whole lot happier.
So you've been living with no furniture for about 2 months. Well, we're about to change that for you.
Watch as helpful folks lend a hand to those in need. See them refurbish and replenish homes all over the world.
Caitlin left her house when she was 13, and now she's finally home.
With all kinds of shows to explore on the BYUtv app, you're sure to find loads your family can watch together. Stream them all for free.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. Jarom Jordan and Spencer Linton. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok.
Let's whip it. Cougar Whip Round presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Cam Newton, never heard of him, announced he will participate in Auburn's Pro Day in an attempt to get back in the league. Which former BYU player should compete at Pro Day on Friday for another shot at the NFL?
This one is... I struggled with this one because I'm trying to think, like, who could actually benefit the most from a good pro day? And we've seen him do it before, but the name I keep coming back to is a guy like Aleva Hifo. Is there somebody better that could, like, benefit more than Aleva Hifo from a scenario like that?
Jokingly, Zach Wilson. I wish Zach, and I said this at the time, he hasn't overcome Jets, right? And he needs to play better as well, but I wish he'd mailed it in a little. Then he would have gone to the Niners, and maybe his fortune's very different. Kind of Kua is bouncing around the league.
Okay,
Kai could be interesting. Bronson Kafusi is another name. Here's the name. Jordan Leslie had a couple moments in preseason camps and whatnot. Like, I know he's training guys now. I don't know if he is in that shape, but like if he was, it's like, oh, could he stick somewhere? Like, he was an interesting receiver.
Knowing Jordan, he's probably still in phenomenal shape.
It's been 6 years, so it's been a minute.
And he's comparable to Cam Newton. He's a little younger than Cam Newton.
Like Corbin Kafusi at lineman? Like
Corbin has officially retired from football?
Until Friday, when he shows up at Pro Day.
He comes back. I like the kind of cool one, though, but yeah, maybe. Does Kai need it, though? Because I feel like he's got enough stock, right?
Yeah.
But I like Bronson Kafusi. I think that's a fun option. Yeah, bring those guys back. Let's go. 24/7 Sports has released a list of the most intimidating atmospheres for a particular team to enter in the 2023 college football season. So which of the road venues on BYU's schedule would you consider the most intimidating for the Cougars this upcoming season?
I know BYU's had success there, obviously, in 2014, but at Texas, just big-time college football.
Just have Taysom run out the flag and zero intimidation
Royal
exists.
Stadium. Yeah, exactly. None of these guys on the team participated on those teams, right? So this will be a new experience, new for this staff. Only, Kelly Papinga was on the staff for that team. So, yeah, this will be brand new. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. But I think BYU has played such a tough non-conference schedule in independence that I don't know that BYU is intimidated by anything. I think they're used to going into some of the big, amazing, traditional venues with great teams and going and competing and sometimes winning that game at USC, at Texas, at Wisconsin, and so on. So, yeah, I mean, when you go 100K, that's just going to be like a big-time atmosphere, right?
Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium and the SEC are, I feel, going to be the most intimidating atmosphere that BYU walks into, and it probably plays into where that game falls in the schedule, too. BYU, after playing Sam Houston State and Southern Utah, now have to venture into SEC country and take on a stadium that's 90,000 plus and 75,000 plus. But BYU's probably going to be 2-0. But it's just a different beast. The SEC is just a different, it's like a religion.
It matters
there in
more,
Fayetteville.
does it not? Grown men with pig noses, going to be interesting. They also have to avenge Parley P. Pratt, just saying. BYU men's volleyball has been ranked 8th for 6 straight weeks. What do the Cougars have to do to climb in the polls?
Beat Pepperdine. Pepperdine is number 7. If BYU can at least split and then maybe do so in convincing fashion, so let's say they beat Pepperdine in 4 and then they lose in 5, then flip-flop those teams and BYU's number 7. You pick up another critical MPSF win. You sweep Pepperdine at home, which this team is certainly capable of.
They can do it. It'll be a good matchup.
Then, yeah, you're going to for sure jump in the rankings.
BYU's 8-0 at home. Haven't lost. Certainly a huge test coming up against Pepperdine, toughest team that the BYU will have hosted. Yes, the top 5 are super solid. Penn State, UCLA, Hawaii, Grand Canyon, Long Beach State. I don't see those 5 kind of moving the rest of the season. Then it's Irvine and Pepperdine. BYU can get into the 7th spot.
Didn't BYU
like you said.
split with Irvine?
They did, yeah. But Irvine's overall resume better than BYU's at the moment.
Just beat Pepperdine. Win both. Awesome.
Win both. And then you're fighting for the 3 seed, really, behind UCLA and Grand Canyon, who's had a tremendous year. Just 1 loss all year. To Pepperdine, by the way.
BYU had their moments against Grand Canyon, too. UCLA is kind of at another level.
Yeah. BYU didn't have its starting setter, Heath Hughes,
Great point.
in both of those matches.
What are the odds that both BYU softball and baseball actually get their games in today with the crazy weather that's been around?
I'd say it's pretty high. They moved them up to get them in. I would think it's like 80% that they get both in.
Yeah, I'd say even higher. I feel like the crazy weather is not supposed to hit until 4 or 5 p.m. And so, yeah, I go 85, 90%.
Yeah.
They need games. It won't be comfortable. 41 degrees, a little bit
It will
breezy.
in the press box for you guys.
It's very true.
Kevin Harlan's call the Furman final seconds over Virginia is the latest in a trend of putting a camera on the broadcasters while they make a call. Would you like to have a camera on you during the call to replay later on social media?
I don't know how I feel about this. It's a little weird. Like, it's fun, but then, like, oh, gosh, like, what? Because you're so lost in the moment sometimes. Like, what do I look like?
I look like a weirdo.
Yeah.
My resting broadcast face is very odd.
So I go back, because I'm calling softball today, I was thinking about that this morning. Last year's BYU-Utah softball game.
I would love to see what your arms flailing.
Yes,
and
when the Cougars went down, they gave up a grand slam. Utah's up 2 runs going in the bottom of the 7th, and then Hunter Ava and Martha Epinesa walk it off in dramatic fashion in that rivalry game. I probably was losing my mind. So I was like, I wonder what I looked like in that moment. Probably an idiot, but it's okay.
We look like idiots every day on this very program, so I don't see the difference. But yeah, that could be fun. I mainly want to see.
Do you have a moment? Like maybe for men's volleyball when they erased that crazy deficit to UCLA?
2013 MPSF semifinals, yes. That is the greatest match I have called in my life. It was awesome. Man.
Were they down 7-2 or something?
They were down 0-2, and then in the 3rd set, it was like, 11-2.
Oh, 11-2.
No, it was nuts.
Oh, gosh.
It might have been less than that, but it sounds better if I say 11-2. If you dig the long ball, and I know you do, watch Austin Deming and the BYU baseball team He leads the WCC in homers, by the way, 7 on the year. They host UVU tonight, 5 Eastern on the BYUtv and BYU radio apps.
Up next, our top 5 BYU NCAA tournament runs. We'll reveal them next. You know Juddy's teams are going to have a say in this. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
Welcome to a partnership where customer experience comes first. It's our focus. It's your expectation. We provide support to those that go the extra mile for all of us. Supplying products, training, and service for generations. Learn more at bradyindustries.com.
Dexter & Dexter is a full-service law firm offering a wide range of legal services. Since 1995, we have helped more than 20,000 Utahns both to navigate life's challenges and to make the most of life's opportunities. From accidents to wills, from bankruptcy to business law, we are passionate about shouldering your burdens. To learn more about scheduling a no-obligation consultation, visit dexterlaw.com.
You're going to feel the energy of all these volunteers.
I'm excited to get out into the world and see who else is making good.
And you're going to meet some of the most amazing people.
And we will all just lift each other up.
What we do is we create memories for families.
And you realize just how good people are.
It does take a village.
It's definitely been a journey.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Station. We are live in Studio B. It is Top 5 Tuesday, and we focus in on the top 5 NCAA tournament runs by BYU basketball teams.
Okay, number 5, 2010 men, second round run. Cougars a 10 seed. Took down Florida and Oklahoma City, winning 99-92, double overtime, 37 points from Jimmer. Career high 26 from Michael Lloyd Jr. That's one of the greatest bench performances ever. Cougars lost 84-72 to 2-seed Kansas State 2 days later, but it did put Jimmer on the map a little bit more. He did have 49 at Arizona that year, but this kind of put him in the limelight preseason first-team All-American going into a senior season.
Number 4, women's basketball in 2002, early in Jeff Judkin's coaching career. Sweet 16 run. First-round game as an 11 seed against the 6 seed Florida. Won by 38, 90-52. Aaron Thorne had 28. The second round, BYU upset the 3 seed Iowa State, 75-69. They erased a 13-point deficit in that game. And then the Sweet 16, eventually losing to 2 seed Tennessee, 68-57.
Number 3, women's hoops 2014 to the Sweet 16. BYU, a 12 seed, took down 5 seed NC State by 15, 4 seed Nebraska by 4, then faced top seeded UConn. I said I'd shave my head if BYU won this game. That's the original shaved head declaration.
It was tied at halftime.
I was a little nervous, I'll be honest. The Cougars played the Huskies tough in the first half, but lost by 19. Morgan Bailey had 15 and 10 in that game. That was a heck of a run. Jennifer Hampson, by the way, in 2014, Sweet 16 women's hoops here, and then that fall with women's volleyball to the national title game as an unseeded team.
Amazing.
Incredible season for Jennifer Hampson.
Number 2, men's basketball 2011 to just their second Sweet 16 ever. 30-4 in the regular season. They earned a 3 seed, beat Wofford, the 14th seed. In that opening game, Jimmer Fredette scored 32, had 7 assists. In the second round, utter domination of the 11 seed Gonzaga right before BYU joined the West Coast Conference. 22-point win. Jimmer had 34, 7 threes. Noah Hartsock, I've forgotten this game. 13 points, 3 of 3 from the three-point line. Then in the Sweet 16 against the 2 seed Florida, BYU loses in extra sessions. Jimmer had 32, held to just 3 for 15 from the three-point line, but
that one gets played every every March.
Jimmer with the eye of the tiger. Hashtag what if Brandon Davies played?
And Jimmer's face right there is like, we want Brother Spencer Linton to come bear his testimony from the pulpit without you knowing, like, what? And the greatest March Madness run by a BYU team ever is 1981. Danny Ainge and the Cougs all the way to the Elite Eight. 6th seed, by the way, 3rd in the WAC. You don't have to win the league to be great, right? Multiple NBA players, Danny Ainge, Greg Kite, Fred Roberts, and others beat 11 seed Princeton by 9, 3 seed UCLA by 23. Then the amazing, iconic Notre Dame win, 51-50, thanks to Danny's length of the court layup. Then they lost to Ralph Sampson and top seed Virginia, 74-60. This is the best BYU team of all time.
Incredible. Top 5 Tuesday. Those are good times.
Great runs.
Here's to the next time BYU's even in the NCAA tournament.
Now, women's hoops did it as an 11 and 12 seed. Men's hoops did it as a 3 and a 6.
Yep.
And had to have the National Player of the Year to do it. I fear that the standard is too high for BYU to get to a Sweet 16 to require the National Player of the Year. One day, BYU can pull off an FAU or a Princeton without the National Player of the Year, right?
Yeah,
right?
I was joking with my wife. Listen, all you got to do is wait 30 years and have the National Player of the Year. And you're going back to the Sweet 16.
All it takes, luckily.
All it takes. Very simple
for Brigham
formula.
Young.
Very simple formula. 30 years, National Player of the Year.
I just think BYU's had a lot of talent and not enough of those, right, runs. But we certainly hope in the Big 12 those start to happen a little more regularly. You get more talented. You get weathered more in conference play where you play in those first 2 rounds. You're like, oh, this is like a Wednesday night in the Big 12.
Listen, BYU in 1988, that team that climbed all the way to I think it was number 2 in the country or number 3.
2 in one poll, 3 in the AP.
You're Michael Smith, Jeff Chapman, Marty Hawes, like not Jared Jensen. Regardless.
They were awesome.
They were Andy Toulson was on that team.
That team should have been in a Sweet 16.
Yes.
They were that good.
They were so good. That team had the talent without the National Player of the Year to get to a Sweet 16, but they underperformed in the tournament.
There are a lot of teams that don't have an All-American that make the Sweet 16, okay? Shout out to Princeton. 15 seed. BYU can't do that? Come on now.
Unbelievable.
Join us for a full day of BYU football on March 31st. All these guys are on scholarships. Beginning at noon Eastern time, 2-hour BYU Sports Nation Alumni Day special. Then the spring scrimmage is at 5 Eastern and alumni game at 7 Eastern. We're live from LaVell Edwards Stadium for 4 straight hours, homies. All on BYUtv and the BYUtv app. And that night, there's a volleyball match as well, by the way.
Up next, a rise and shout out to a great ambassador for BYU as a current athlete, no less. This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Introducing the truck for adventure. The all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier doesn't compromise on power or comfort. This midsize truck was redesigned to incorporate the latest technology and designs for safety, comfort, and convenience. Plus, with up to 6,700 pounds of towing capacity and best-in-class horsepower, it's rugged enough for adventure and still safe enough to transport all your favorite people. Where's your new Frontier? You'll find it at Tim Dowling Nissan Southtown and South Jordan.
I came from literally a broken home. That was the day I met Metro Man, and our rivalry was born.
I'm done.
Wait, what?
How did you do this? You left us in the hands of him. No offense.
No, I'm with you.
Megamind, the city needs you.
I'm the bad guy. I don't save the day, and I don't get the girl. Let's just have fun with this. Come on.
I was adopted as a baby.
Love, that's the missing piece.
4 teams are racing to find their family.
I would really love to meet my parents. It's high time that we see each other again.
I'm your dad, Tommy.
I'm your sister, love.
Really?
I just want her to know I forgive you.
It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Welcome to an all-new season of Relative Race.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
This program is on demand. You can download the free BYUtv and BYU radio apps, which you're going to need to watch softball and baseball today, of course. And subscribe, rate, and review the podcast version of the show.
It's all free. It's all free.
$3.90 free. I think all we want is an email for the apps. So there you go.
Our question of the day: how many wins would it take next season for BYU football or basketball, or both, if you want to answer both, to exceed expectations in year one of the Big 12? Blaine Swallow on Instagram says, I'd say 8 wins in football, 18 wins in basketball will be beyond my expectations for year one, although I usually aim higher as the season gets closer.
We all kind of do that, right? It's like, hey, maybe...
Go through fall camp. Oh, this player looked amazing. Maybe that's worth one more.
Means there'll be an one player, one win. It's really high.
Quarterback.
Unless that name's Keaton Slopes. Yeah.
Yep.
Caleb Hatch on Instagram. The dream would be a perfect 12-0. Okay, Caleb. Thanks, man. However, winning at least 8 games would exceed expectation. Thank you. Back down to earth here. For basketball, being 500 in conference would exceed expectation. You just never know. We kind of know going into next year, you know.
My mind just exploded at the thought of 12-0. I am numb.
Suddenly BYU's TCU from last year? Is that what we're saying? That would be unbelievable. Listen, maybe BYU surprised us, but how many times has BYU surprised us in that way? 96. 83 was, 84 was a surprise. 96 was a surprise. 01 was a surprise. 06 we kind of saw coming. That team was on the verge. I'm trying to think of some of the best teams in BYU history.
08 started 6-0. Was that a surprise or no? Was that
no? Because you're coming off 11-2.
Hall, Cauley, Pitta, all back. Unga.
No.
That one was expected.
08 quest for perfection. The expectation was perfection. Yeah. Let's 12-0 would be nice. That'd be great. Massive blue goggles, like the biggest ever.
Unexpected? 2020 was unexpected. How about that? In a number of ways.
The whole year?
Yes. In a number of ways.
Didn't expect a pandemic.
Our elite voice of the day, presented by PAX, Healthcare Elevated. Ben Peterson says, if either team has a winning record, that would exceed my expectations. Wow, either team.
It's true.
They're about to make a difficult transition, and I will not be surprised if it takes some time for adjustment.
Let's allow that. Yet, have a high expectation, for sure. It's BYU. We expect to win.
Just a winning record.
We just don't know how tough it's going to be to raise that bar, right?
Today's Rise and Shout Out presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. Can we give it to Cody Epps, who was recently featured on a podcast, and he's just a great ambassador for BYU football. And not just, like, it's one thing to do it as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which he is not, okay? And he's an African-American athlete. Like, Cody Epps, there's a place for everyone. I love what he said and how he portrays it.
Laced Up Podcast.
Laced Up Podcast, yes, thank you. Our thanks to today's guest, Blaine Fowler.
Sorry to Dennis Pitta, ran out of time.
For Jarom, I am Spencer. Shout out to Jim Yusevich. The BYU Devotional is next, featuring Elder Jeffrey R. Holland of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. Stay tuned and go.